to press record. We're going to get ready. Dawn or Darren typically kind of gives an orientation. Dawn, if you want to take it over, welcome everyone.
You bet. Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. This is the DBHR monthly topical job developers. I shouldn't say topical, job developers community of practice call. And Joni has a kind of a faithful group that comes, and we appreciate you here. I wanted to just take a minute to mention that, as always, we're doing supported employment fidelity reviews, and on the east side of the state, I could certainly use some more agencies that are looking to host a fidelity review. So if you have any interest in that, let me know. If I end up with more agencies that want to do a review, then I could also use a few more reviewers. So let me know if you're interested in participating.
Great, thank you so much.
Dawn,
anything else? Darren, do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add. It's just great to see so many people here at the meeting this month. I know the new year, so much stuff has been going on, so really appreciative of everybody coming today. And I'm looking forward, as Dawn said, to focusing on fidelity reviews. Definitely looking for some more sites to review. So if anybody has any of the interest, please reach out to Dawn or I, and we can talk more about that.
Great, thank you so much, Darren and Dawn. We'll get started. My name is Joni Dolce. I'm with the Integrated Employment Institute with the Department of Psychiatric Rehabilitation and Counseling Professions at Rutgers, the School of Health Professions here in New Jersey. So it is noon time here in my area. So good morning to all of you. And again, like Darren and Dawn said, really appreciate you showing up and all of your engagement with the job developers calls over the last, I want to say 5 years, Dawn and Darren. So several years we've been doing this. So again, just as a reminder, please.
Hey, I just, the letter you had, I just put in there that you needed instead of few.
Paula, can you please mute?
The jacket and stuff, so just so that if they ask you that you have it, so okay.
Yes.
Okay. So if we could just keep our mics muted and turn off the cameras during the webinar, and unless you have something to say or want to talk, certainly unmute your mics and we can put the camera on, but it's just kind of bandwidth and easier when we have the cameras off for the majority, but if you feel comfortable keeping them on, whatever your preference is. But we're going to get started. And again, if you could just peek at your mics to make sure they are muted. I'm going to make Dawn a co-host if I can, so that she can peek at people's mics to make sure they are muted. That would be great.
You bet. I can do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Dawn. All right. So we'll get started. So today, Dawn and Darren and I talk pretty extensively about some topics, and based on some of the feedback that Dawn and Darren get from the fidelity reviews. And we thought it would be a good opportunity in this kind of new year, talk about what are some of these continued challenges that people are facing with transitioning back. There's, kind of rapidly changing dynamics now. People are going back into the workforce or being requested to go back. So it'd be nice to sort of get some feedback from you all on how things are going and how, what your experiences are as a provider, and maybe your own transition back, but also some of the challenges and concerns that job seekers are encountering with this transition. We're going to talk about some practical solutions to address the concerns, and then I thought we'd spend a tiny bit of time exploring some resources related to the labor market and just kind of sharing some additional resources around that. Individuals you're working with, job seekers, might be shifting focus. So having some of those labor market exploration tools kind of handy might be helpful at this time. So we are going to get started with just jumping right into unmuting your mics or raising your hand. I think if that's a feature here in meeting, I should know after 3 years, but or writing in the chat, what are some common concerns that job seekers have with transitioning back? So that could mean transitioning back to meeting with you in the office compared to remote, transitioning back to now considering in-person jobs versus remote jobs, or maybe people are continuing to want remote positions and they may not be as plentiful as they are. You may have some concerns. So maybe even thinking about what concerns you're currently experiencing with transitioning back. You're, you know, the behavioral health field, the labor market, things are rapidly changing. And there are some challenges with some of these changes. So Dawn, I don't know if there's anything.
Yeah, there is in the chat, whoops, a daisy. And then of course, when you add another one, then it flips away.
I know.
Samantha says, I have a couple of people who are afraid they can't keep up with the fast-paced work environment.
Okay,
Good one.
and that's very good. So fast-paced work
Mhm.
environment. Any others?
Joe says we have several clients who are adamant about wanting remote work in spite of reopening and return to offices.
Yeah, yes, that's a big concern. People have gotten comfortable, familiar, interested. Remote work works very well, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with that a little bit too, that there's this kind of discrepancy, and we're going to talk about that as we move on. It looks like there might be some others in the chat.
Mandy says gap in work due to COVID or other physical, mental health, recovery from substance abuse issues.
So gaps in
Yeah.
employment, okay.
Eli says safety due to increase in violence, all around shootings, attacks, etc. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, there have been. It's frightening.
Any others in there? So gaps, some of the increased safety concerns. So it sounds like individuals, job seekers are fearing certain in-person positions because of some of the safety concerns. Is that correct, Dawn? Is that kind of what you're seeing?
Is that right, Eli? I think that's what he's saying. And then Paula says wanting a supportive work environment. I see vaccine requirements, not feeling supported by managers and not trusting other staff.
Okay.
Yeah, they're coming quicker.
Yes. Thank you. And when we get to some of the solution focused part of today's call, I can quickly, while people are, I can quickly put those in a Word document. So we have those kind of handy, or if that's available to you, Dawn, right now to kind of cut and paste those chats, that would be helpful.
I could surely do that. Paula says mental health, recovery, substance
So
use. Frankie asked if the recording will be shared, and it will be. Darren or
yes.
typically send out a thanks for attending with Joni's PowerPoint and the recording.
Yeah. So thank you. Again, it seems like this is something that you're finding challenging. There are lots of concerns that people have with returning back. What are some common concerns that you have with transitioning back? Maybe you're now required to go back into the office, or you're now required to maybe periodically touch base in person. And if you're comfortable talking about that, that's fine. If you prefer not to, that's fine too. But let's also talk about those common concerns that providers are currently experiencing.
I see Mandy has one still about participants, lack of education working in virtual environments, especially for older adults that haven't been well versed with basic computer skills.
Okay, so even just having the basic computer knowledge to navigate a remote environment. So let's move on. There is this shift happening, kind of switching from remote to hybrid to maybe fully in person, that right now is kind of, you may be experiencing that in your jobs. Dawn, I don't know what the current, and maybe others can chime in. Are you currently mostly working remotely, or is there a hybrid, or are you mostly in person in your own offices?
And in the healthcare authority, it used to be that everyone was pretty much Olympia based. Now there are a number of us that are in other areas, and so there are, for those that are Olympia based, there's the hybrid. For those that are in remote from Olympia areas, we're doing definitely virtual. So yeah, it's been a big change.
And what about job seekers that people might be working with? Are they now getting sort of nudged, or has their position been switching from maybe fully remote to hybrid to in person? What are some of the job seekers' current positions, and is that happening across the board?
I don't know, it might be a little bit different over on the east side of the state, but I know for Beth and I,
Mhm.
we first stayed home. Like, we continued to work in our office.
Okay.
We would do meetings like together, like we did a lot more Zoom meetings with clients and stuff, obviously because they couldn't come in.
Right.
But we still had to be there in person to do everything. So
your job never really switched during the
No,
pandemic. I mean,
it really didn't. The way we met with clients definitely changed. Like, we had to do Zoom and stuff, or over the
Mhm.
phone. So how we met and served our clients definitely had to change. But we pretty much have switched back for quite a while now. We obviously still have to take precautions and,
Right.
wear masks and stuff like that when we need to, but
how about others? Whether it's your own position or job seekers that you're working with, encountering this switch from maybe fully remote to hybrid to possibly fully in person again.
This is Frankie Rowan with Seattle Jobs Initiative. And what I'll say is most of our team all of our team works pretty much remotely.
Okay.
And but when we serve clients, a lot of them now, because of the transition and everything that's happened, there's a lot that has happened, and so they really want to work from home. We have some folks who are adamant,
Mm-hmm.
even though we tell them these are the job we work. Our pathway is healthcare. One of our pathways is healthcare, and we say specifically these are the jobs that we have available. They go through our program, and then at the end they say, I want a remote job. And they're adamant about it. And so we're like, remember, we talked about these are the jobs that were available. And so that's what we're seeing as well, is folks doing whatever they can to get whatever they need to survive, and then also trying to push widen the spectrum for themselves, but not knowing what. Yeah, so that's what we're seeing. Some of the things we're seeing.
Yeah, I think, Frankie, what you're describing is, and I have these kind of current news articles that are up here. You can look at those in detail, but back in December, job seekers still want remote jobs, but these jobs are drying up. A news report from CBS News, looking at a LinkedIn survey where they found that the trend now is kind of what Frankie just mentioned. The trend is there are fewer remote jobs. By the end of, I think it was October of 2020 or February of 2022, there were 20% remote jobs. just in a few months, October of 2022, that reduced to 14%. So the trend is that the remote jobs are drying up. Give some other good information in there too. And then another one from Forbes just recently, a couple days ago, is the end of remote work jobs approaching, and it is. Employers are wanting employees to return to the workplace. They are paying rent and leasing, and they want to get the most out of that. So the trend is now moving into maybe the end of remote work jobs. So just like Frankie said, this creates somewhat of a discrepancy, right? So many job seekers you're working with might have gotten their first job in a remote environment. That might have been, it's been almost 3 years now, that might have been their first job. So that may be all they know or all they're comfortable with. And if those jobs are beginning to be fewer and far between, it creates this discrepancy with the labor market not really supporting the interest of job seekers that you're working with. Dawn, it looks like there might be a couple of chats.
There are, yeah. Paula had said pretty much hybrid and encouraging clients to meet in person. Stacy had said same. Samantha said fully in person for me. And Mandy had said, I'm an independent living specialist, basically a peer supporter for others with various disabilities. The agency that I work for is Disability Empowerment Center. We have 3 offices. Currently, I'm the only one working in my office. Working alone is very difficult because it's too quiet and lonely. My agency will not let me work from home due to potential liability issues.
It is lonely. We have an office that very few people have gone into, and when I go in, you're pretty much there by yourself. So I understand what you're saying, and I think those are some of the challenges and concerns that we face as providers, but also potentially job seekers are encountering. So quick little poll, you can just use the QR code and queue it up on your phone, or join the slido.com and it'll prompt you. Or you could just use the chat if that's the quickest and easiest. Fun to kind of do these polls sometimes. But job seekers I am currently working with prefer remote work, in-person work, or hybrid, just to kind of get a sense of what people that you're working with are expressing an interest in. I'm going to try and. So just use your phone, click in. Oh,
Boy, that QR code thing is nifty.
easy, right? Makes it nice.
I like it.
So it looks like we have. Okay, so hybrid, in person, looking at the chat, in person, mostly in person, hybrid, in person, mostly in person, and also remote, mostly in person. So according to the chat, it looks like a lot of in person. The poll here kind of suggests similar. So job seekers that you're working with are preferring more in-person positions. Although, it looks like a fair percentage of job seekers are also looking for in remote or hybrid, which is probably much higher than it was 3.5 years ago, I'm assuming. So what types of in-person work are most people interested in? Because some industries never really changed, right? So service type industries, hotels, restaurants kind of remain the same unless they closed altogether. Never really offered the option to work from home other than maybe in their corporate offices. But many of the employers are really requesting that in kind of transition into either hybrid or remote. So yeah, about a quarter of the respondees are still interested in remote and hybrid. So let's look at another little question. So for kind of a follow-up to that, I'm having more challenges assisting job seekers to find jobs that are remote, in person, or hybrid. So where are your challenges as a job developer? And again, this is helpful for us to think through today, but also gives Dawn and Darren and I some important information as we plan for the upcoming year. So remote, Randy, Lance, remote, Jessica, remote. So even though only a quarter of the job seekers that we talked about want remote work, or that's the interest that they have, this is probably the more challenging of the work that you're supporting job seekers to find. Finding remote opportunities looks like, and then Beth, remote, in person, and remote. So there are some challenges. What are some of those challenges? What are some, let's see. So if we were to think about specifically those challenges to assisting someone, so let's break it down. If you said remote, in person, or hybrid, what are some specific challenges in those areas?
I see Joe says, managing expectations. Can you expand on that, Joe?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting, Joni, and I'm glad that you're addressing this. Stacy says, I agree. I think that many people think that remote work is easy to find. Mandy says, people with social anxiety that don't want to leave their home, other mental health disabilities like PTSD. Deanna says, finding a good fit for the type of remote jobs and being able to communicate with those types of employers. Joe says, Stacy got it right. That's where I was headed. So that think that remote work is easy to find.
And maybe it was easier to find, right? 2 years ago, 3 years ago, well, maybe not quite 3, but but that's, as you saw from the news reports and Forbes, that's ending. Those plentiful remote opportunities are coming to an end. The expectation is transitioning back. So I think that those challenges that you're talking about really are aligned with the current state of the job market and what employers are expecting. It looks like there might be a couple more in there.
There are, and if I butcher your name, I'm sorry, Mandea. The type of
Yes.
Thank you. What do you know? The type of remote work available does not match the job seeker's qualifications and skills. And Stacy said, agreed.
Yes, I think that's absolutely not, so that there's this incongruence between maybe what the remote job is and what the person's current skills are. So I thank you for bringing that up. Is there anything else in there, Dawn?
Just another, pardon me, another agreed.
So a good fit, I'm just jotting this down, managing expectations. People thinking maybe that remote work is easier to find, not having, the skills or qualifications can be a challenge and a concern for some remote jobs, or maybe any of these types of jobs. Anything else before we move on? But I think you came up with a lot of good responses for that.
Yeah, Eli says a few clients, and I have noticed that some employers have had job openings, yet they never seem to hire.
So maybe like this continued job opening, that they're constantly taking applications, but never are actually hiring anyone. Keeping that job listing open pretty
Yeah.
often. And Frank, it looks like Frankie has her hand raised.
Yeah, and also when the remote jobs do come available, there are folks with higher level and ability, better computer skills and the ability to be able to navigate the application process.
Yeah.
And so the folks who have bachelor's and master's degrees are getting those jobs as opposed to folks who don't have that skill set when it comes to ATS tracking and things like that for their resumes and cover letters.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you, Frankie. I think you kind of, again, hit the nail on the head with this idea that what does this mean for job seekers? There's more competition, right? So more competition to get your foot in the door. The ATS is the application tracking system that employers oftentimes use to kind of flag keywords in your application or resume. So like Frankie said, that is a support that we may need to be providing now to individuals we're working with, helping them to identify what does a good application look like? How do I include genuinely skills from the job application or from the job listing to my application, so that employers are going to want to look at mine, and it doesn't, it doesn't kind of just get tucked away. It's something that kind of the tracking system sees and wants to use or wants to pursue. Joe writes, beating the ATS is the challenge for everyone, especially our customers. So, maybe that's, Dawn, a good upcoming topic, kind of looking at applying online, how to kind of, as Joe said, maybe beat the ATS system, or at least be
Be
able to
Yeah.
have your skills look just as relevant and just as important as the next person. And it may not be just a lack of skills, it may be, like Frankie suggested, a lack of knowing how to apply in that way.
Absolutely.
I
I think
that's
that's a
important.
great idea.
And if anyone has good resources or tools or anything that could help us make it the most relevant for you, please pass that along. So the job market looks different. Fewer remote jobs, I already mentioned, kind of going from 20 to 14%, more competition for these jobs. Are there other things that are happening with the job market? We talked about competition, fewer remote jobs. What else might be happening in the job market that looks different, that we as job developers want to be mindful of when we're working with job seekers?
Frankie had said job scan as a resource, and then is that AI, Frankie?
Yes, AI is definitely taking over and taking jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this sounds like a topic definitely to cover in the future.
Mhm.
I'm going to put an asterisk on that.
Yeah. And I am getting the stuff copied from the, excuse me, from the chat, Joni.
Oh, thank you.
If you don't want to,
Thank
sorry,
you.
allergies.
That's very helpful. Samantha, less flexibility in carving positions. Yep. So this kind of more competition, fewer remote jobs, maybe creating less flexibility to carve out different positions. The length of time it takes for employers to contact potential employees is also maybe something different that you're seeing with the job market. That's what Paula's mentioning. Jessica, because of the need, employers need people to jump in and know how to do the job. Training is not always available. Yes, so there's that accessibility concerns. So maybe accommodation or other accessibility concerns play in. And then there's also workplace challenges, right? So when someone is transitioning back, and you could even think about your own transition to in-person or hybrid, and there's been research to suggest that productivity sometimes diminishes when people are transitioning back in person. And so how to manage that, or how to support job seekers if that becomes a concern, and particularly kind of around setting boundaries. So how do you, if you are supporting someone, or even yourself, you're returning to work and you haven't seen coworkers in a while, and kind of just, setting up your chatting, and or somebody wants to come into your office and chat, making sure you're setting those boundaries to help keep the productivity, and keep your own productivity in place, and also encouraging and supporting job seekers to set those boundaries. How to explain to a colleague or a coworker, I have to, finish this, and we can maybe set up a time to chat during lunch, or, let's make sure we catch up the last 15 minutes of work, or whatever that might be. But coaching people, and even your own kind of ways to manage and set boundaries, maintaining wellness at work. If it's you're transitioning back, and the job seeker was familiar, or the employee was familiar and comfortable working at home, and had kind of a routine, and wellness was kind of front and center, because there was, they were able to maybe take some breaks, or sit in a different room, or whatever helped with their wellness, even just not traveling to work. Now going back into the office, or even working hybrid, paying more attention to maintaining that wellness.
Mandea's got another good one. There are so many job openings now, but most of these jobs have lowered hiring requirements to fill up positions. But job seekers, when hired, may be overwhelmed by the expectations of the job, which affects job satisfaction, leading the job seekers leaving these jobs and becoming unemployed again.
Yes, I think that's kind of where the readiness and helping the person really look at, not readiness in the sense of, can the person get to the job, and do they have the skills, but that intent and belief that going to work would be possible and positive. So, how do you address that with someone? Mandea, is that kind of what you were alluding to? Maybe you can elaborate a bit.
Yeah, so basically what I'm saying is when these job seekers, these employers are looking to hire people in, so when they lower the expectation, the individuals feel like they have the skill set to do the job. However, when they get in the job, they realize that they're expecting them to do something that wasn't said that they would have to kind of almost like fill up other roles. So then that can cause them to feel extremely overwhelmed, dissatisfied. Then they're like, this job is not for me. But going in, because of everything else they saw, they thought it was probably something they can do, because of the expectations were lowered and the people wanted to fill the jobs.
Yes.
Yeah, that combination of jobs things, yeah, good grief. Hadn't considered that.
Just a quick question. Is anyone having a problem seeing the slide presentation? Is it coming up, or because I'm getting a message that it's just a black screen?
No, I see it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, good. Okay, I'll I don't know.
Yeah, I cannot see anything.
Yeah, Jesus, I don't know
Just
what
it's just
what that
black.
means. Yeah, I will definitely
It's
send
I
you.
see you are viewing Johnny Dulce's screen, and then view options. I try getting my video options, make sure that they're good, set up correctly, and everything
Yeah,
seems
I
to be
don't know.
okay.
I'm so sorry, Jesus, but
No, it's
we will
okay.
definitely send it out to you after. I don't know how
Thank
to
you.
Hey,
fix
Suze,
it.
maybe log out and log back in again, see if that resolves the issue. Sometimes it does.
Oh, that's a good
Okay, I
idea.
will try that.
Thank you,
Yeah, I will try
Dawn.
that. Thank you, thank you.
Yes, thank you. So I just wanted to make sure we were able to,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and then
someone
Paula
had to do an
said,
update. Yep. So,
yeah, so that might be the issue too.
are there other workplace challenges? I think Mandaya brought up something. We talked about wellness. And just to let you know, Dawn and Darren, Mandaya might not seem familiar to you. She's actually one of our new team members with the Institute, and she had wanted to sit in. She's just starting. So,
Oh, very nice.
so welcome, Mandaya.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, same with Eli. Okay,
Yeah, as far as the update prior to the webinar, I think.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So how do we navigate these new challenges that we're experiencing? We're going to spend a little bit of time in some breakout rooms, really looking at what a challenge is that job seekers are currently experiencing, or you as a provider are encountering with this transition to in-person or hybrid work. And you can certainly talk about other challenges that you're experiencing if this transition isn't necessarily a concern that you're currently having, but we wanted to try to really keep it as tight as possible so that we can really kind of think about what are some solutions, what might get in the way of this solution, what are some things that can help, whether it's additional resources or you know, buy-in from your organization, or kind of coming away from today thinking about what are some challenges, some possible solutions, maybe hearing from others that you don't necessarily work with kind of can help help you kind of think of different things that maybe you didn't think of before, and then we'll come back together as a larger group. So if you want to take a picture of this, or I can I will grab it and put it in the chat. But if you can identify one person who will facilitate, one person to take notes, and then someone to report back to the group. So I'm going to create those rooms now, just randomly. I'll pause the recording after we do that. So I'm going to say maybe 5 rooms. So start making your way into the rooms. I'm going to try to quickly just go in, throw this information in the chat so you have it. But if I don't get to your room in time, just either take a picture or kind of cut and paste it yourselves if you can, so that you have in mind. But identify a challenge, possible solution, what might get in the way of the solution, and what can help. So what can you do to help or address what might get in the way? All right, so I will meet everyone if you want to start making your way into your groups. Peggy, Eli, Beth, are you making your way, or do you need let's see. Eli, I did assign you to group 1. If you wanted to join it, you should have gotten a message. And if Cassie, Peggy, or Chelsea want to join their groups, I think they're still running. Oh, okay. I'm going to resume the recording and we'll get back to our discussion. So in your breakout rooms, if we could have a volunteer or two, what was a challenge that either job seeker or maybe you as a provider might be encountering with this transition? Or maybe you talked about another challenge, a solution or solutions, what might get in the way of this solution, and then what can help. So was there a group that wanted to volunteer to answer some of these questions?
Me. Okay.
Thank you, Deanna.
So we identified a challenge that employers are saying they're hiring and they're not hiring,
Okay.
right? And they take a long period of time before they get back to their application, and by that time the participant has lost interest,
Mhm.
right? And so the options that we came up with is maybe temporary work or other programs like InstaWork or something that they can do online, and they can make their own schedule and pick
Okay.
their own type of entry-level job to make that income that they want to make like right now. And once their ideal job comes up, then it's not a big problem when they decide to leave that temporary job or temp agency.
So maybe find something temporarily.
Yes.
What might get in the way of this solution?
Participants get frustrated. What gets frustrating is that they had this idea that they wanted this job. They get frustrated when, you know, these other options are put out there, and sometimes too many options can get them, you know, kind of anxiety, right? Like, oh my God, right? So I try to present, you know, one at a time, seeing what they see and asking them if that's okay. And then and to be able to work on their ideal job.
So.
And not being able to not being able to find their job right away, which the participants get frustrated. And the other last one is, what can I do to help? We were talking about meeting with the participant more than once a week, you know.
So maybe increasing, yeah,
increasing the either it be, you know, online, either it be on the phone, either it be in person, but more contact, letting them know that you're here for them, letting them know that that we are going to that we are going to find this right, that there is a job out there, that it is a good fit for them. Reiterating that they're doing an amazing job, just meeting with me, just
affirmations, providing affirmations, genuine and sincere, also giving hope. There's something out there, and together we'll find it. How about another group? We have about a minute or two left to talk about maybe this, but thank you, Deanna. I appreciate that.
Well, this is Darren. I was part of Group 5, and it was really interesting where we were talking about the individual choice. And sometimes that support network has an influence on those choices. It was really interesting. Lena was talking about some people who lost their jobs because of hybrid situations at the Microsoft campus, but they're still attached to wanting that job and that culture and what they're used to. And so with some of the support network folks. And so we, as a group, we kind of talked about some of those challenges where people are at and how to break through and make those changes and try to, make connections with the support network, maybe DVR. And, I talked about some MI stuff happening this year for some training, so that we have some more tools to really kind of help people move forward and kind of get to those bases. People have some needs to be met, and not all those needs can be met if you don't have gainful employment.
Yeah, I love the idea of using some MI, motivational interviewing techniques and strategies. Absolutely. I think that'll help. And yes, please share any of those resources. Any other group want to chime in and kind of let us know what some of those challenges or concerns and some solutions and what might get in the way and what can help?
The group that I was a part of, we spoke about just kind of personal mental health challenges to getting motivated, getting out there, and how some other issues keep getting put in front of following through to get the job or applying for the job. A few of us shared about that, and I particularly have someone who keeps putting other issues first, like, well, I need to get my health regulated first. And one of the things that we thought about as a solution is just helping to maybe support someone to get employment that has flexibility in their routine, or just like 1 or 2 days, so that they still have obvious other days to solve those other things that are coming up.
I love that. So not necessarily just dismissing the whole idea of work, but meeting the person where they're at, and maybe those couple of days will grow into another couple of days.
Yeah. Trying to get baby steps, basically.
Yes. Yep. And those successes build. Yep. Those successes build on one another. Absolutely. So thank you. It's about 2 minutes to 10. So I'm going to just see what we have a little summary just to kind of, but I also, I did want to thank everyone for participating in this. I wanted to also leave you with some resources, so we might not get to them, and I didn't expect that we would, but maybe some resources that you can use to maybe help job seekers who may need to consider different job goals based on the current job market, some different labor market information there for your state. You can also review someone's skills, interests, values, and preferences through a variety of different types of formal assessments, ONET, Occupational Information Network, different inventories through ONET and some other areas, but also just discussions, right? Using some of what Darren mentioned, those motivational interviewing techniques, trying to elicit from the person their interests, their needs, their skills and help them maybe come up with a solution if they were so interested in wanting to maintain that remote job, but that's not possible anymore. Help them to explore some other areas that might be possible. And some wellness planning tools to address some of the wellness. Mary Ellen Copeland and her RAP materials. SAMHSA, Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, has some additional planning tools available that are derived from RAP. So those resources are there, but we explored some of these challenges, solutions. Dawn, Darren, and I have a couple of additional ideas for upcoming groups, the ATS, applicant tracking system, and some other areas that we're going to explore. So thank you. If you have any questions or concerns, we never quite get to because we kind of ask and respond throughout, but as always, you can reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat, and Darren, if you wanted to just kind of close out, or Dawn.
Sure. Thank you all today for joining the HCA and this excellent presentation by Rutgers. Thank you so much, Joni. It's always a pleasure being part of your presentations. And thank you all for the rich discussion. I know that's a focus of all the presenters today, is really making connections and having people shared experiences and challenging that are happening out in the field. So thank you so much for that. And please feel free to send suggestions our way for upcoming
Yes.
topics, because even like today, talking about the ATS and some of the other challenges is really helpful for us to take those next steps in creating presentations that are helpful for our job seekers in the community. So thank you all today. It's been a great
Yes.
presentation. Thank you, Joni.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your weekend, and